This
The Bikeways
conference will
meeting.
now be recorded.
Welcome to the Harwich Bikeways Committee meeting for December 6th. We were unable to hold a meeting due to lack of a quorum in November. So we tried to get it into early December, and we'll go from here. We have in attendance, we have David, Charlie, Steve, Paul, myself, Fran, and Alan. Eric? I don't see Eric on the screen. You just called
I'm
in?
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see Eric either, but I do hear him.
Okay.
I called in, so I'm here. Can
Okay,
you hear
good.
me? Yeah.
Yes.
So the first item on new business is the approval of the October meeting minutes. So approved. Like I mentioned before, we did not have a meeting in November. So we're just getting around to approving the October Bikeways meeting minutes.
I approve it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
So the first item on the agenda is the meeting with the Chatham Bikeways Committee to update us on the plans for the mile markers. Take it away, Steve or Dave.
Alrighty, yeah, I'll start in on it. About a year ago, I wrote a memo to our group. I had a thought about the numbering of the trail. I recalled a couple years earlier that there have been certain ambulance visits on the trail, and it occurred to me that it's a little difficult to figure out where you are if you're not from here. We get a great many visitors. Many hop on the trail and bike along and pretty much don't know what town they're in. And so I was ruminating on the idea that every town seems to have its own miling on the trail. I thought, gosh, they really should have some sort of consistency, because if you had to call in your 911, it'd be nice to tell them where you are. So in thinking about it a while, I thought about making the rotary being the zero on the three legs of the trail. The three legs of the trail are the Chatham one really won't expand. It won't get any longer, but the northern trail is going, and the western trail is heading towards the bridge eventually. And so I figured, great, we start from zero, we can just keep on adding numbers, and we would differentiate those numbers from each other by stating that the ones on the OCRT would be eastern numbers. We'd have northern numbers head north and western numbers going the other way. So I thought perhaps, you'd be on the trail somewhere and you'd see 3.2E. Well, everyone would know where you were. I thought it was a good idea, but we'd need to get everyone in on the project. Our DPW has started painting those markers on our side, and so we thought we'd bring it to you, and I would like to also eventually spread the idea towards the greater Cape Cod Rail Trail. Anyway, questions?
Are you blocking out or eliminating the old mile markers?
Yes, that's the plan. Yep. We found at some points on our trail, you could see three different numbers, and it just was wrong. Sometime last year, a group initiated by the fire department, I guess, decided to start numbering the trail, and they started from a different starting point. And so it's all messed up. So that's why we wanted to black out the old numbers and put in solid numbers that would be very useful to emergency personnel.
Very good.
I have one question or observation. First of all, it is a much needed project, and it's great that we're working on this. I guess my only concern is when I think of the Cape Cod Rail Trail, I think of it going east and west. And when we go off, I'll just say the Old Colony Rail Trail is a branch, okay? And I'm aware of other branches that are under construction for the future. So maybe it might be a little confusing calling that the branch trail east or whatever. You know, keeping the name of that section in, you know, like OCT, OCRT, or OC, because, you know, a person going down the rail trail, yes, it is going north out of there. You're correct, but then, you know, whether it's really going east or west, or if for some reason in the future somebody puts a branch on there, what would they name the branch? So you could keep it consistent by just keeping the name.
Well, you see, I figure that we have handily there are 26 letters in the alphabet, and really it could be anything. But if you recall, a couple of years ago, 28 used to be numbered 28 east and west, and it was terribly confusing to the point that they actually removed the east or west from the 28. Remember, the route goes in a kind of a big loop here, a big U-shaped loop. I figure if you're going to rename the numbers, and it's, you know, it could be ABC, but
I wouldn't mind chiming in from the rail trail point of view. Right now, it has granite markers every mile. The 0 point is Route 134, and then it goes, and that's how the markers are going out through Wellfleet. The town of Dennis did their own mileage marker from that 0 point, but then Yarmouth did their own, and there was a lot of confusion going in that direction. I thought of having everything in that direction using the 0 point at 134, just heading west, or east. But you know, a lot of it in this day and age, when someone calls 911 on their cell phone, it pings, and they know where you are, and the equipment is in the ambulance. So a lot of it isn't. We don't need the, you know, but it is nice. I like the mileage markers, and it is a blessing. So there is anything to save a life and get rescue there fast. So there was a committee talking about redoing the numbers on the rail trail and starting in like Station Ave. But I think it's going to keep expanding that direction. So why change the 0 point at this juncture, since it's already got it? You would have to pull those granite markers and grind them down and route them. I mean, it's a huge cost, so it doesn't make sense. But what's faded on our rail trail, we went out with paint and did every 10th of a mile one year. And that sort of was pretty helpful for people, but that's totally gotten faded and sections have been repaved. So maybe some new mileage thing would be good on the rail trail. It has been kind of just, there's only every mile at this point.
So we discussed this back in the March Bikeways Committee meeting. And at the time, I believe I brought it up because there were some new mile markers painted on the Chatham section of the Old Colony Rail Trail that were incredibly confusing because they were completely, you know, they were based on a different starting point than the Cape Cod Rail Trail. and different starting point than the numbering system here in Harwich. So at the time I proposed that we draft a proposal that gets shared with the towns of Harwich, Chatham, Brewster, and Orleans to start with. Since though, I'm sorry, and I
Well,
believe we just, but
well, the rail trail is a state entity, so the town doesn't have jurisdiction to say how to renumber it in the
yeah,
town.
the conversation wasn't around jurisdiction, Eric. The conversation was around what makes sense. The proposal was to discuss a number system proposal with the emergency response departments and say, does
Right.
this make sense to you? And what we discussed at the time and what I began working on was exactly as I think it was you that just mentioned it, whoever was speaking, starting with the rotary as 0 and having the mile markers every 1/10 of a mile, and on, you know, the north extension from the rotary up to, you know, Outer Cape, they would be all prefaced with an N. And on the OCRT, they'd all be prefaced with an E. And going west towards Dennis and Yarmouth, they'd all be prefaced with a W.
Okay. Well, my
system,
advice would be to work on numbering the OCRT. The 2 towns that are jurisdiction and would be have to put in, that is what needs to be coordinated. The rail trail has a fairly established mile system with the 0 point on Route 134 in Dennis.
right, which is exactly why I abandoned it, because I realized there was such a significant cost. It just felt like I was going to fight a losing battle.
Right. Well,
working
keep
on
that, but you're right about the OCRT, the 2 towns. It should be a 0 point at the rotary and continue it all the way to what is it, Kroll Road there in Chatham?
Well, I mean, look, like it should be the whole system. Why the DCR decided to start with, you know, like talk about a short
Well,
sighted
the
approach.
sad thing, it's not one. It isn't just one highway system. It is this state owns a section from Station Ave to Wellfleet, and then the town of Harwich has their trail that they own and maintain and have, you know, and work on. And so there's a lot of coordination between, so it looks the same pretty much, and it seems for a visitor, it's just a Cape Highway system, bike system, and it's great, you know. I don't know. I don't see it, you know, using the Harwich Rotary as the 0 point. I don't know if that makes total sense unless you're from the town of Harwich. I mean, I don't know, but
Well, I mean,
it certainly does for the OCRT trail. That makes sense.
Well,
I would definitely.
If it were not for the granite markers, don't you think it would make sense for the Cape Cod Rail Trail as well?
What's that?
Were it not for the existing granite markers and the expense associated with editing them, don't you think that that 0 point that's in the center on a system that's continually expanding outward from there would make sense?
Right. Well,
I mean,
you
it would
have
make
to
more
have
sense
it
to
at
start
one
in
point.
Dennis
But
than
if it's
Dennis.
if it's at 134, you're going east and west. So it'll always be from there. So the farther they go up through Wellfleet, it'll add on to the numbers that way. And then the farther, if they go going west, it's to keep the 0 point at 134. But I mean, it is just, you know, just because it has been the 0 point and it has gotten that historical establishment of that. And there is, you know, that, you know, and sometimes there's no sense in just that the rotary doesn't necessarily make it a better 0 point. I mean,
So
you know,
guys from Canada would like to.
but that's beside, you know.
David?
Go ahead, David.
David?
I'd just like to add something here. And the reality is I met with the police of the chief of police in Chatham and the chief of the fire department. And we talked about the paintings that are out there now for emergency response, which is what I think we're talking about here. And
Right.
they were very adamant, going along with Steve's idea of having it every 10th of a mile. And at this point, we've already started to do it. And when you go out to the trail and you reach the border, and following up with what Alan said, we're looking at it as starting at the rotary as 0, and then it's going east all the way to the end of the line in Chatham. And this is, this is for the OCRT. And it coincides exactly what you've already done. Yours ends at 3.25 miles. You've done it, I think, every quarter or every 10th of a mile. And then ours, and then there's the border, and then ours starts in very clearly. If you're out there, you'll see it. It looks really good. It's fluorescent yellow paint right smack in the middle. And it says, and the next one is from the border is 3.25 east, it says. And it goes all the way up to 5.5 at this point. And eventually it will go all the way to, I think, 7.5 where it ends. And it coincides exactly with what your marker is on the ground right now. The issue is, and of course it's your decision, but the issue is when you're at the border and you're going back towards Harwich, you have a number system going from there back to 0. So going west, it says 2.5, let's say, as an example. And ideally, it should coincide with leaving from the rotary itself. So it should be, if it's going to be like ours, which I'm suggesting that it is, it would be 2.5 east, coming towards Chatham. And so, as I said, it's already there. It's already on the ground. And this is coming from the police department. This is what they wanted. And we made one mistake, though, and there was a lack of communication when our guys went out there to do it. And they had put, if you go out there and see it, it will say, 3.5, it will say east. And then right next to it will say 3.5, and they put west. And so we've asked them to go back and eliminate all the west. And then so it will always say 3.5. So that's kind of where we are with it now. We've already done it, and we're hoping that you would perhaps do the same.
David, are these different than the mile markers that were put out back in March?
Pardon me?
Are these different markings than what was painted back in March on the path?
Yeah, all the old ones have been blackened out. These are all fresh, new paint markings. It looks good.
That's good. That's good. I have not been running that direction. Frankly, I haven't been running for several months, but definitely haven't been going east. So I'm happy to hear that you guys have updated those because they were confusing before. And that was frankly why this topic even was brought up, because I took a bunch of photos of them and said, who knows, who put these markings down in Chatham, because they're really confusing. So kudos. I think I'm not going to speak on behalf of the entire board, the committee, but I personally am fully supportive of that. And it sounds like it's in line with the proposal that I was starting. I got sidetracked, like I said, because I was concerned about the expense of updating, and just dealing with the state and the DCR with their existing system, whether or not we feel it's correct. It just didn't feel like a battle I was ready to embark upon. So if we just stay focused on the OCRT and we update our mile markers the same. And then the beauty of just focusing on the OCRT is, even if the letter E is missing, we've got a consistent approach starting at the Harwich Rotary going outward. So whatever the number is, if it's, in Harwich or Chatham, we know it's that many miles from the Rotary. So.
Great.
Steve?
If I can just add in my thinking about the rest of the trail and the mile markers that are already there, I had already thought to myself, well, instead of grinding out anything, sandblasting out any numbers or whatever, or what have you. Little medallions could be made with the number marking on them and epoxied in place, and that's good for 20 years. You know, that would be a pretty simple fix. Just
Okay.
wanted to check that. Okay.
Good point.
Think of it as a big
Well,
expense. It's
yeah.
not much.
I would advise don't go out and do anything on the rail trail.
Yeah,
Okay.
No,
You can
Don't
come
worry
up
about
with different, because there's a lot of people who are in that committee that talk about and have plans. So I would not. It could get redone. It did have every 10th mileage, and that was helpful. And and we would switch it when it switched towns. It would say, Harwich, Brewster, and so I'm open to having discussion and see what we can do. I don't know. Changing the 0 point that no one ever said Harwich Rotary except this committee. I mean, I had chiefs and everybody were different views in Yarmouth and different views. So
Well, I just
might
figured
not be.
it would never move.
It's, Eric, I mean, so look, we're not, it's unfortunate because I think that if we were all having this conversation on the Brewster or the Orleans Bikeways Committee, I think we'd probably be saying the same thing, that the Rotary makes sense for the 0 point because then it supports both the Rail Trail and the Old Colony Rail Trail. So this isn't anything against Dennis or DCR. This is trying to have a system that's just makes sense logically statewide. And
It makes sense logically statewide from the Harwich point of view because it's already got a 0 point starting in Dennis. So that's as valid as 0 point. And if the main east-west trail, which is the Cape Cod Rail Trail, the spur that runs into Chatham is different, And if we're going to unify them, which isn't a bad idea, Alan, to have a unified approach in that. But maybe using the Rotary as a 0 point makes sense. But there's it would have to be mileage and then east and west from that. I guess that's it.
Yeah,
east, west,
that
north. Yeah.
If we, I think we're going to focus on the OCRT, maybe a year.
Well, definitely, because that
we'll
has
work on
been
an RFP
confusing. Right.
we'll have,
the other one does have a number system, and all the towns are used to it right now on rescue.
Right.
They know they have it. So the worst situation we had is with bollards, and there was problem of rescue getting on past some of the bollards and signs in the newer section. That was actually in Dennis by Gage's Way. There was issues. So, but yeah, we want rescue to be able to fly in. They're not even putting bollards in the new section in Wellesley. So rescue could just drive right on. There's a danger of a car could, but it's got enough signs, looks like a pedestrian trail. You'd have to be pretty crazy, but I'm sure there'll be someone driving down it.
Right. David,
That's a-
with what device was used to measure the mile markers in Chatham? Was it Jones County used or?
They used a wheel. Originally, the first thing we did is we had the town make a map and actually measure it by GPS.
Yeah.
So it's a big map and it's pretty detailed. And then the guys went out with a wheel, and it coincides exactly with the map because I went out there and walked with the map.
Okay. All right. Great. I do USA Track certifications with a device called a Jones counter. So, because marathons and 5K to be a championship event, they have to be precise, not like within a foot or two, but like within an inch or two. And so my plan was to use a Jones counter to do this OCRT spur. And, what I'll probably do, I have the flags, I have a calibration course down here on the Cape, which unfortunately we don't have yet. So I have to measure that out. And then, this will be something that I'll, be prioritizing in the spring. So, I can be your go-to guy on this topic because I've already started the project, which is abandoned it for a while.
That would be great. And as I said, I was, when I was really concerned because I was actually in Boston when they started the job, and I thought, oh my God, I hope they started the right spot and I hope it coincides with. And I went out there and I went, oh man, because it works perfectly. Where your last one's 3.25, quarter of a mile down is ours, and incidentally, the police and the fire would like it to be every 1/10 of a mile. We've only done it a quarter of a mile, and in the spring, supposedly they're going to do that.
Yeah, I every 1/10 of a mile. So that's the approach that we had all discussed back in March, and I'll just extend that to this proposal, but keep it limited to the OCRT. So
great.
Harwich won't be renumbering any part of their trail just yet. Link has plans to repave the whole trail, so he won't be willing to put numbers down just to have them taken up a year later.
Yeah.
To repave.
Okay.
Maybe we can revisit that with Link a little bit just to be sure that that's, or have you already, Fran? Is that going to really happen, or is that just, is it 3 years from now?
I haven't talked with him, haven't had any communication with him at all.
Okay. I tell you what, I'll take an action to email Link and see where he's at with that, and give him a heads up as to what we're thinking of proposing, similar to exactly what Chatham has done in the spring, and see how I'll put something together and copy all you guys, and just see where he's at with it. Sound good?
Sounds
great.
good.
That's good.
Okay, on to the next item. Did any additional painting take place?
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, okay,
Oh.
David.
Take care, David.
Thank you,
Thanks a
gentlemen.
lot. Okay, guys.
Enjoy your night.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Did
See you, Steve.
any additional painting of the cracks get done on the OCRT?
No. Yeah,
Okay.
because I think, I've ridden it a few times at this point, and it's kind of like almost, I probably oversprayed it at this point. I figure I haven't done any more.
Okay,
I do have more paint. I do have the paint gun, if anybody feels it's something, but now it's getting too cold. Now it'll be springtime.
well, this is the agenda that we're working on for November, so it's a little late now. Any further progress with the CPC regarding the Oak Street crossing lights?
The CPC meets on the 15th, Fran, and I plan on being in attendance there to review the request with them. And then I don't think that they make any, I don't know when they make the final decisions, but I don't think that happens on the 15th. Maybe
No.
Paul.
No,
Yeah.
usually it's after the first of the year, sometimes late January or so. But
Okay.
I've been there many times. If you want support, I can put the 15th on my agenda. I don't know what my calendar is, but up to
You
you.
know what? I think I can do it. I appreciate the offer, but I'll save you one.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the report to the annual Bikeways report to the select board. Paul, you gave that back in October?
I gave that, back in October. Went well. What I've learned from it, though, I think, after I should have learned from it the year before, I provided them with a detailed report in an email, and probably could have summarized that very, without going through all the bullets, and just say, I know you guys have read it, one or two highlights, and end it there rather than having a 5-minute presentation. But it all went well.
And the next item on the agenda is the new bike racks at the beaches. Have you seen any more? Have you been down there to any of the other beaches?
I
I
have
haven't
not,
been on.
and
I know the Cameron ordered them. I just didn't know if they showed up.
well, Link said that they were part of the grant, that 6, if I remember his email, 6 racks, and what else? There was 6 and 6 racks, and
6 fix-it stations?
maybe fix-it stations.
Really?
I'd have to go back to his email. I apologize on that, but I thought they looked cool. Love the color. It was, look at what's here. Because the fix-it station was going in place, and I have not been back there at the, I think, that was Earl Street Beach. But there was a stand there ready for the tools to be, attached. And Link said they were going in all the way across the board. So
Maybe you could touch base with Link and ask him, just out of curiosity, have the bike racks been installed at each of the beaches? He would have to install them.
yeah, or if he hasn't, obviously it'll probably wait till spring, but okay.
Future Harwich Bikeways meetings. I don't know what that's about.
I think that was, I don't know. I know you put that on there. I guess they'll be go-to, for now. And I didn't know at this point, being December 6th, do you still want to have a meeting on the 20th?
No.
Nope.
No, I don't think it's necessary.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. That's settled. So our next meeting will be January
5th, did you say?
Third
No.
Tuesday.
third Tuesday, would be the 17th.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay. The letter that we drafted and sent on to the select board is ready to be signed. We've got it. Ellen Powell sent out an email today. Supposedly she copied the Bikeways Committee. So all of you should have gotten a copy of it.
Yeah.
I did.
And
A copy of the letter. I just saw an email that says they've received the letter. I wasn't even aware the letter was finalized.
Julie, that's Julie's last name. Our representative to the select
Kavanaugh.
board,
Kavanaugh.
Julie brought it in front of her cohorts, her fellow select people, and they agreed that we should send this on to
There's
Julie.
there's no copy of the letter on the email, and have we finalized the letter? Who has a copy of the letter?
What we did was, this was the original letter prior to, it goes back to September. And
Is this the letter that we were editing on Google Docs, or is this another letter?
this is the original letter before Google Docs.
Okay.
But we could certainly use the letter on Google Docs and do it again using this original letter, sending out to Julian Sear and Sarah Peak, just to start. And certainly the other bike committees have looked at that letter on Google Docs. And I know the Friends of the Cape Cod Rail Trail were going to send out their own letter using Google Docs as a format. They were going to put it into their own words.
Okay.
So Paul, you want to stop in at the town hall and,
Yeah, I can do that definitely this week. Only needs one, only needs one signature.
I guess,
Yeah, I saw
I'll-
the email. It wasn't clear. I don't think you need, do you need to tell her that I'm signing for you, for the group?
I don't know.
All right. I'm free, not tomorrow, but I'll be free on Thursday to be able to do that. I'll go in and see what she says.
Yeah, maybe you just have to pick up the letter and send it on. I don't know.
I don't know. It sounded like
But
sounded like we
But
just had to sign it.
Yeah,
I,
that's what it
like
sounds
I
like.
said,
definitely send those letters out because we're going to get a new administration in the state, and the more there's words passed on up. There was a gentleman from Eastham who knows the governor-elect well, supposedly, and Kim Driscoll, and he's going to talk to them about the root damage that, and addressing the way, what can be done. And so there could be a light turned on this, and if decisions get made and there's federal money, all of a sudden it could be a repaving. And I would like to see it done if they do it, to do it as well as they build a really a great base so the roots, I mean, the roots are coming through way too quick, and it's just, if we need it to a certain smoothness for road bikes. It has to, I think, really the specs on the building of it. I mean, I think it's a little bit more beefier than a driveway, but it's not even very supportive of the logging trucks that end up having to go down after storms sometimes. So, good time. Yeah, get that letter out. That's great.
okay,
Let them know that if this is the will of the people, what people want. So I
yes,
rode the trail today, and I used a bike with a 175 mountain bike smooth tire, so it rolls pretty good, but it's wide. The roots jar you a bit, but not bad. Not like a racing bike would be really jarring. So I understand.
item number 8, I did not see any letter from, or any email from Charlene to say that she contacted the Cape Cod Commission about the license plate grant. Has anybody else heard from her?
No,
I have not.
no.
So maybe we'll carry that over to the next meeting.
Yeah, that would be nice because I know she's had most of the contact with Colleen, and that's how we got which one? Our two new ones our two new lights last year came through the license plate grants, and I just don't want to miss that window.
Okay. Under old business, we are asking once again the committee to look for any potential OCRT projects for 2023 and continue to monitor for any hazards on the trail and report them to Paul so he can get back the link.
Mhm.
I don't know if much work is going to get done on the trail over the winter, but I know that Link is always open for ideas or suggestions for him to, if the weather is good, he'll work on the trail. The next meeting, once again, will be Tuesday, January 17th. It'll be another virtual meeting with the GoToMeeting app. And we don't have any more comments or suggestions, we can end the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Motion for
All right.
Thank you.
Fran,
Good
take
seeing you.
care,
Hey,
okay?
I'll have a great holiday if I don't see any of you
Oh,
around.
thank you.
You
Merry
too,
Christmas.
Paul. Yep. Yep. Have a great
That tree
holiday.
frame looks great.
We will.